That's what I'm talking about, Andrew. That's what I'm talking about, Andrew. That's what I like to see, Mr. Barry. The Browns, day 4, and honestly, look, as I'm recording this video, I'm going to be real with y'all. This day 4 is still going, right? So, like, there are still picks to be made. I'm going to go over what has happened so far in this draft, what could happen going forward. But right now, I mean, all the picks that are super important or that are super interesting, I feel like have happened. So now we're at the point of just, talking about everything else when it comes to this draft. So let's go over it so far. As of recording this video, the Browns have drafted Martin Emerson, Alex Wright, David Bell. I have a video coming out about that later. PERRION, WINFREY, Cade York, and Jerome Ford. Now, these are all three players that a lot of us are very familiar with, right? PERRION WINFREY, if you're watching this channel, you are clearly familiar with PERRION WINFREY. I've been talking about him since January. He's basically been my number one target at defensive tackle this whole time. Now, Jordan Davis is clearly the best one in this entire draft, but the ideal of getting Jordan Davis in a world where you just sent your first round pick to Houston for Deshaun Watson, not going to happen. But yes, that's there. Cade York, number one kicker in this year's class. I'm not going to rain on y'all parade tonight. Y'all know how I feel overall about drafting kickers. I tend to think that it's not the greatest ideal in the world, but it's y'all day today, right? I'm going to just let y'all have y'all day. If you want to throw the parade for the kicker, throw the parade for the kicker. And maybe, just maybe he'll be really good and we don't have to worry about kicking woes anymore. Like, if he's the solution, albeit great, it's just the numbers on finding a solution at kicker in the draft at that point just aren't that great. And then the Browns also drafted in the 5th round Jerome Ford, running back out of Cincinnati, who I like a lot. I like Jerome Ford a lot. Now, let's go in reverse order because y'all know I could talk like 20 minutes on PERRION WINFREY. I literally did a 40-minute live stream earlier today. So y'all know that I could go on and on and on and on and on about that. But Jerome Ford is a player I really like. Now, I personally have a soft spot for the Jim Tressel Ohio State era as well. I grew up on him. Not really an Ohio State fan, but I grew up on that Jim Tressel stuff. Jim Tressel was also president of Youngstown State University, where I graduated from. He was the president while I was there. I've actually gotten to meet him a couple of times. Real nice dude. But that being said, I always have a soft spot for his coaching tree. Luke Fickell at Cincinnati was in his coaching tree. So I've watched actually a ton of Cincinnati football over the last 2 years. I would say I followed them as close as I followed any other FCS team. Not saying I'm like a UC fan or anything, but I followed them closely. So I know a lot about Desmond Ridder, Kobe Bryant, Sauce Gardner, and then Jerome Ford, the kind of core of that team. And I felt like offensively, Jerome Ford was the driving piece in that team's ability offensively to get to the playoff as a non-Power 5 team. Now, if you don't know about Jerome Ford, he's a former Alabama running back, transferred out, went to University of Cincinnati, and he put up some pretty strong numbers at the University of Cincinnati. I'm going to try to pull them up here so I don't misquote them, but they were pretty strong numbers at Cincinnati, especially this year. I think he really came into his own. Now, again, there is a question of like, where in the hell does Jerome Ford fit in the Cleveland Browns roster, right? Because you already have Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. We know that they're not going anywhere. You might hang on because you had the tender. Now, let me Google this, make sure I'm not wrong on this, but you do have the tender. I believe it expired, and Dearness Johnson is just going to be here in Cleveland at this point, right? Yep. His tender expired. He's going to be in Cleveland. So yeah, Dearness Johnson is going to be here. We know that those are 3 starting level running backs. You usually only keep 3. Last year they kept 4 because they drafted the young guy. I'm blanking on his name, Demetric Felton. So now you're at 4. You spun a 5th, which is higher than what you spun on Demetric Felton, on Jerome Ford. And it's not like Demetric Felton was terrible last year. Like, showed a lot of poise. So maybe you keep Demetric as a wide receiver. But, like, are we really looking at keeping 5 running backs? Like, that's the one concern I have. But I think Jerome's going to be able to make the team. I think he's going to be a good running back. I just don't know, like, how he fits into the Browns' plans as far as, like, are the Browns going to be able to keep all these dudes that they have? Like, the Browns are like Alabama in the sense that they have all the running backs in the world. And kind of Jerome Ford finds himself in that same situation he was at Alabama, where, like, all these dudes were there, right? I think he got there at Alabama. I'm trying to think. Well, he's 22. So he got to Alabama probably in 2018. And just think about all those running backs that were there in 2018. Right, I believe Derrick Henry was Derrick Henry still there? Or was he 2017? No, Derrick Henry was 2017, but still, you had a ton of dudes still there at Alabama, just clogging up on the way. He finally gets a real opportunity at Cincinnati in 2021, and had over 1,000 yards, 1,300 yards, 19 touchdowns. So that's a good thing. He is on the older side for a running back, 22, for a young running back. But I do think there's potential there. Maybe that works out. Doesn't have a ton of receiving potential, even though this year he did show it. And again, if you look at the University of Cincinnati and you watch a ton of them this year, the main reason they were able to achieve what they achieved on offense to get to the playoff as a non-Power 5 school was basically off the strength of Jerome Ford. I don't think Desmond Ridder was really the strength of that offense at all. I think it was Jerome Ford. Like, when you looked at them and they needed something, Jerome Ford came out of nowhere. Like, go watch that game he had versus Houston, where he just broke out a couple of just huge, like, 60-yard runs versus them. So Jerome Ford, I like that pick. I like it a lot. Let's talk about Cade York, man. He's a kicker, right? My issue isn't with Cade York. My issue isn't with the position. My issue is with the NFL's inability to evaluate this position. We have shown that the NFL is not good at this. So it makes me very nervous when you spend a 4th-round pick on a kicker, because we are not good at evaluating this. So, like, we have no idea if that dude's actually worth a 4th-round pick, because we just don't have the basis. Again, there's one kicker that is not on their rookie deal that is still with the team that originally drafted them and has never left. That's Mason Crosby. Everybody else is either 2 years into their career, and that's only 2 of them, right? Or they have bounced around a ton, or they were undrafted free agents of the like, right? So that's one of my big concerns about this pick, is when you draft a kicker, you're kind of committing to that guy, right? Especially in the 4th round. And that can sometimes be a good thing, because you can wait out some woes with the guy and then he turns out to be Phil Dawson. It's great. But that can also be a thing to where, hey, you draft this guy with the 4th-round pick. You have a guy in camp who's undrafted that's smoking it, right? Like, you get the next Justin Tucker or something like that, or Justin Tucker light in camp as an undrafted free agent. But you got to keep Cade York because you spent a 4th-round pick on him, and all of a sudden you miss out on a good kicker. I'm always team bringing a ton of undrafted and unsigned guys and just figure it out there with kicker. But they decided they were going to go and draft this dude in the 4th round. So we'll see if that works out. I hope it does, right? For everybody's sake, I hope it does. I'm not confident. But hey, you know, if Cade York's the guy, Cade York's the guy. I'm not saying anything on his tape or his body of work. Like, I don't doubt that it's really good. But again, this kicking thing is really random. Roberto Aguayo had like the best kicking tape of all time. And he was terrible in the NFL. So, like, we don't know. We don't know how to project these things for whatever reason. And that's all my point is about drafting the kicker early. But I'm not about to be outraged on it. And the reason I'm not about to be outraged on it is when you got David Bell, who I like Jerome Ford a lot. And then you got the big dog. You got the dude who was barking in his introductory press conference, talking about he about to kill him. He about to kill him. He about to kill him. I got 9-5 next to me. We about to kill him. And that's PERRION WINFREY, man. All right, so if you have been watching my channel for any bit amount of time, again, you know that I like PERRION WINFREY quite a bit. I think he's a really good player. I think he has great athleticism. He has good enough bend, long arms, and he likes to fight, which is my favorite trait in a defensive tackle, right? He likes to fight. And you can tell he likes to fight because listen to him talk. Listen to him talk. Be around him for 10 minutes. Dude likes to fight. So I like that about him. What do I think he brings to the Browns? Now, look, it's going to be a little bit of a Larry Ogunjobi situation early, where he's going to get to the quarterback, but he might let some run lanes go through because he's going to be really aggressive, and he's going to be over eager. That's going to be a thing. He's going to definitely pop in training camp, but sometimes he's going to pop for the wrong reasons in training camp, right? He'll get through, burst through a penetration, but completely overshoot his gap. So that is something to be worried about with PERRION. I think you can coach that. I'll take that as a flaw any day of the week versus somebody who has low upside, low energy, but stays in their gap. Like, I would take that. I would take what PERRION WINFREY gives you 9 times out of 10 every day plus Sundays on that. So that's what he brings to the table. Again, I've done a ton of film breakdowns on PERRION WINFREY. I've talked a ton about PERRION WINFREY. There's really not much too new to be said about PERRION WINFREY, quite frankly. At least on this channel, I've been very high on him for a very long time. But Browns get the guy. I think ultimately, and I still stick to this, I think he, even though he's a 4th round pick, I think he ends up being the 2nd best defensive tackle in this draft class. I think he also ends up being a top 15 player in this draft. When it's all said and done, in 3 years, we'll look back and go, PERRION in these redrafts is going to go top 15. I think he's a really good player. I think he has all the traits. I think if he's put in the right situation, which he is in Cleveland, he's going to be great. And I love this pick. And right now, look, I did not like the Alex Wright draft, the pick. And after that pick, I was kind of out on this whole draft because I didn't even know who Martin Emerson was. Alex Wright, didn't like that pick at all. And then, we get to David Bell. I like that. Okay. We get to PERRION WINFREY. I like that. I don't love the idea of drafting a kicker in the 4th round. But if you're going to get a kicker, get the kicker that everybody is talking about or everybody wants. Sure. Get Cade York. And maybe they're looking at this as we're just taking a flyer, right? And then you swing back around and get Jerome Ford. I like these picks so far. I have hope for them. Andrew Berry has not really had terrible drafts since he's been here. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt on some of the guys that I don't like. But there are a lot of guys in this that I do like. But let me know what you think. What do you think of this draft so far? Let me know your thoughts down below. But again, guys, thank you for just hanging out with me. You guys have a great day. Have a good night.